Hi everyone. So in this video we are going to cover bass and the types of bass that you can generate from a eurorack setup similar to this. We're largely going to be concentrating on the Dimensions MK3, but the Ramble does provide a channel of bass as well, or can do. I'm not going to cover kind of sequencing and how generated triggers and all of that. That will come in a subsequent video. This one's just more about the sounds, the type of sounds that we can generate, similar to the kick and the snare and hats done previously. But I will just explain a little bit how the Dimensions MK3 and Ramble are triggered, and then the pitch information comes from. So I already kind of covered it in the system overview, but I'll just touch on it again, and also the modulation source. So master clock is the horologic solemn. That feeds the DivKid, kid's DivKid. And we have channel 3 and 4. And they are set to the Turing machine models. And they largely trigger the voices, but also modulation. So on channel 3, we've got A and B. They are triggering on the Befaco, the third and fourth channel of Befaco here. So that's the envelope generator. The Dimensions MK3 is a free running oscillator. It's a wavetable oscillator. I've got it in dual mode, which just means that there are two wavetables running simultaneously, and the outputs of those are being fed into Befaco, channels 3 and 4. And I've got the higher one is on channel 3, and the lower one on channel 4 there. Fourth channel of DivKid. The A is sequencing the mimetic digitalis from NoiseEngineering, and that is what is moving us through the grid on the x-axis at the moment, but it could be through the full grid, or it could be up and down, or it could be completely random. It's how you configure it. Mostly I have this set on a fixed step, and then I modulate through shredding the various voltages across the 4 outputs. So the Dimensions MK3, oh, sorry, we didn't cover pitch. So pitch is coming from the Plum Audio 1 UAC, Ornament and Crime module. And again, the actual trigger for sequencing the pitch is coming from the mimetic digitalis, which is in turn coming from DivKid. So every time I change the position in grid here, a new pitch position sequence, or the next step in the sequence is also triggered, which then changes the pitch. And I've just manually programmed in a pitch sequence, various values. Currently got it in pentatonic major, and the key is C at the moment, but I can control the octaves. I can control if it goes forwards, backwards, random. I can edit the individual values. I've only got a 5-step sequence in place at the moment, but every time I step through mimetic, you can see the position on the ornament and crime is changing. Now, hard to see in the video, but it's this little screen here. You can see every time I'm clicking, moving that little arrow across the various pitch. I tend to, before I start any jam, I might just twiddle those settings, kind of do a few test sequences just to check the pitch values are nice. It just gives you that variation. And again, we're straying into the sequencing side of it, but having your triggers or your gates separate to your pitch CV, so having two sequences, if you like, independent of each other, that gives you more options for your pattern variation and so on. But again, I'll cover that in the sequencing video. So Dimensions MK3. So you can see at the moment on the screen here, we've got 2 sine waves. So I've loaded the first, this is patch 1. On one of the wavetables, I've just got the basic sine wave morphs into square wave, morphs into triangle wave. And then on the other channel, we've got the mandatory one, I think it is, wavetable. So let me just scroll through these. So if you see, wrong one. As I scroll through, let's try and do this so I'm not covering the camera. As I scroll through this, you can see the top wave there is changing, as I say, between the kind of the saw wave, the square wave right there, and then the sine wave. And then the bottom one is the mandatory. So as you see, as I change this value, you can see it is going crazy. And all the way up, all the way around. Now, the position in the wavetable is modulated from the mimetic digitalis via the two outputs. What outputs that? Output 1 and output 3. And as we're stepping through, well, I could do it now actually. I'll shred it. As you see, new values have meant that those waveforms have changed slightly. I need to do it again, and you can see they change. Every single time I click shred, you get a different type of waveform. And as we know, the beauty of mimetic is that if I like a sequence and it's playing and I like exactly what it's doing, I can save that. I can then start shredding, moving through. I might zero it out to go back to the sine waves, go all the way through. And then I want to go back to that one I saved. I can just do undo and I go straight back. So nice performance tool. So on the Dimensions MK3, you've also got kind of coarse and fine pitch controls. And you have the ability to really quickly switch patches. So this is the first patch. Second patch is just base tables 2 and a different base table for the low one. And then similarly throughout most of these is base table 3, base table 4, base table 5, and so on. And then the second oscillator or the second channel will have another random base table to it. I still need to play around and load my own wave tables and so on to it, but at the moment I'm just using the standard factory ones that come with it. Okay, we'll listen to some of this in a bit, and we'll also listen just to the dry signal of what is output from Dimensions, before we then add the effects of the Rowena Versio, the Desmodus Versio. So stereo distortion, stereo reverb. Now on Rample, I've got the second channel here, so it's got some interesting kind of sounds which are generated via the Fractal Bits software in iOS, and I recorded that in Koala, used the software to convert that into the 16-bit mono files that it needs, and loaded those up, similarly with the snares and so on. But this channel here is a kind of a mixed wave of kind of computery, glitchy, mechanical, industrial kind of sounds. That output is going into channel 1 of Befaco, this one here. It's being pitched by the same pitch signal that's going into Dimensions MK3 from the Plum Audio Ornament and Crime. It is being modulated by the fourth channel of Mimetic that's going into the CV1 in of the Rample. So the start position is shifting based on the current voltage that is coming out of the Mimetic digitalis on that step. And that just again gives you that variation. Befaco, again, that's being triggered by the B channel of the fourth drawing machine that I've got running here. So all of the sounds that come from Dimensions MK3 and Rample, they're going into Befaco. And Befaco is a mixer plus an envelope generator, a standard attack decay generator. It deals with triggers very nicely, and that's where you get these snappy envelopes, because I'm currently in trigger mode. So I've got the envelopes for the two bases coming out of Dimensions MK3. But they're all quite small, otherwise you just basically drone out. But you can do subtle variations. So on one side, I might do a little bit more of a decay on channel 3, for example, and that gives you that nice kind of variation between the bass channels, and also gives you either a deeper side and a higher side, or a combination thereof, and it gives you that kind of as if the gate's been left open, kind of that nice kind of effect where the bass drones on a bit, and then it's a snappy little pluck from this side, and it goes back to droning and so on. So it's just a nice way of mixing those up. And then similarly from the Rample, we've got fine control here on this envelope here. All of the bass comes out of Befaco in the mix and goes straight into the dark matter, bastl dark matter, into the feedback in input of bastl dark matter. Kick goes into the actual input of dark matter, and this just allows me to do that ducking and have fine control over that ducking. The bass that goes in is then you can EQ it via the bass and the treble options in the dark matter. Also, there's various ways you can set different envelopes, and you can also treat it as a mixer. So if I want the kick to be more prominent, I can turn up the kick and control it this way. I can add more drive to the kick, or I can up the bass, so I can fine tune the balance there. There is something to be said about the mixes with the bass and the kick and all of that. You need lots of mixers. So, I mean, this is a mixer itself because a mixer itself. The dark matter provides a little bit of mixing. I've got the dedicated mixer here from Befaco. It's just the mono mixer. I can tune each of those against each other. Making those fine adjustments is needed because switching from techno to kind of EDM, slower styles, faster styles, you need to change a lot of settings. You need snappier, kind of shorter, punchier, I'd say, kind of bass rhythm for like really fast songs. And then for slower ones, you want to open those envelopes up and let it ring out. The output of dark matter goes into the fourth channel of this mixer. So it's currently on this one. And then the whole lot goes into the combination of Ruina and Desmodus. And a copy also goes into the stereo mixer that we have at the top here. So I've kind of got the dry signal, a copy of that going into channel 1 of this stereo mixer. And then I've got the wet signal, which is coming through the effect section of this case. Now, it's not completely wet because I kind of balance it out, so I have less reverb. But it just gives me that fine control. I can have Ruina turned fully up, or I can turn that down and have a bit more reverb. Combination of both, and so on. The Desmodus Versio in particular, it can completely wipe out any sound. So delicate hand is needed. Outputs then of all of the bass with the percussion elements, but all of the signal path then comes into the meta, oxy meta. That's where I can do my transitions, my risers and so on in there. And then it all goes through the Libra Legio. I know it says Vertita Legio, but this is the Libra Legio. And this is the compressor, so heavy compression. And this is kind of the ceiling, so we can kind of open that up. And also it provides saturation, which is needed, noise gate, and the way the dynamics work. So you can ask it to concentrate more on the highs or the lows, or just be off. Okay, enough talking. Let's have a listen to the Dimensions MK3. I'm just going to start a little pattern going. We'll have a listen to it. It's completely dry. There is no effects. And I think this might be quite surprising because this is a very tinny sound. But let's just hear it as it comes out of Dimensions MK3. I was just going through the dimensions and go through there. You did hear a little bit of the ramp pool kicking as well, so this channel, the ramp pool, was displaying as well. But let's just concentrate on that for a minute, and I will showcase the sounds that are coming out of that. So as I'm pressing shred here, we're actually just changing the start position on the wave file that is playing here. And as you can hear, it's just a load of weird and wonderful sounds coming out on that one. What I'll do now is I'll just combine both. We can hear everything in concert together, and I will just do a couple of shreds just so you can hear the combinations that come out of this. as you could hear there, and I mean on every single shred, so the kind of that 0 to 5 random voltage, every time I hit that, completely different bass sounds that come out of it, and you're traversing the whole wavetable here and the start position on that wave file. So really, there's almost, well, there's no such thing, unlimited kind of combinations there, but there are more than you can count. Let's say that much, and like little subtle variations across these wavetables make a huge difference in the sound that is produced. And the wave files that are in a RAM pool can be as long as you want. Certainly, they're quite short. I think they're less than a minute that I've done, but I was literally just jamming on that fractal bits app and just making weird and wonderful sounds from that. You could extend that out to 10 minutes. You can have 10-minute wave files in there, so you just never really, like through a whole set, you're never going to hit on the same sound. Yeah, interesting combinations you can do there. Still got 2 channels. I need to work out what I'm going to do with those, but again, restricted on the case size really. Anyway, so that was the kind of the dry bass that just coming out. I mean, it's coming through dark matter, so it's not truly dry, but that is the sound before proper effects. So let's listen to a little bit with those bass sounds with Ruin added in, and then we'll add a little bit of reverb as well. Makes you want to jam out. Yeah, I say it's just very groovy, and I wasn't even changing. That was the same pattern all the way through there, but just switching out the sounds with the shred. But again, then you can change the Turing machine. It changes this combination of triggers coming into Befaco, changing the bass line, changing the groove. And also you saw me a little bit there, just changing the envelopes as well. So I could have more on one side, less on the other, get it bouncy when they're both kind of really tight, snappy envelopes, have one a little bit more than the other, and so on. So many different combinations here, and it largely just comes down into the performance, just tweaking and playing, just enjoy it and going. I mean, like just then I just wanted to fire the all of the percussion into it and actually jam out, which I will do at the end of this. Well, I will do as part of this video, shall we say. We'll have a little jam. I'm actually going to just showcase now bass against the kick. I think that's a fairly important step, because that's often where difficulties arise and getting muddied kind of bass textures and everything. And that's certainly where I struggled when I started, is finding a way to nicely kind of combine that kick and bass. I used to just drive the ever-living heck out of the kick just to get it through the mix and punch holes through it. But with a module like Dark Matter, it provides a very nice way of doing it. So I'm just going to showcase you that there, what options you have with Dark Matter for balancing the kick. Okay. the kick is also pitched with the same value that's coming out of the ornament and crime module that feeds into the Dimensions MK3 and the ramp pool. Being in the same key, some will argue it doesn't matter, some do. I like it, so I do it. Okay, so on the bastl dark matter, you've got a fader, so kick fully to the left, and then mix gradually with the bass as you fade to the right. If you listen closely, you can hear the kind of ducking effect as I scroll slowly across. And here there's no real ducking effect taking place. Sweet spot in this is open for interpretation, really. I normally have it around about midway, just past midway. And that's too much, so yeah. Around there sounds good to me, but yeah. This gives you the fine control needed so you can find that actual balance. Now I'm just going to show you what, how the drive affects that as well, because the more drive or the beefier the kick, more adjustments you'll need to make then to keep the bass in check. And also I'll just showcase the bass with playing around with the equalizer that we have available on the bastl dark matter as well. So there I've just changed the decay dynamic envelope. So I was using the snappier of decay envelope there, but this is the wider one, so the more decay. And you can hear that ducking effect a lot easier. Yeah, so lots of options there, as you can hear. Definitely get yourself, well, I can't recommend dark matter enough, just all the things that it can do. There are other ways of ducking, like I used a simple VCA with the inverted envelope coming straight from the battery arm itself. You could do that. There is modules like the Endorphin's cockpit, which can accept a trigger and does that kind of ducking per channel. And there's various other ones out there, but there is a need to make space for the kick, so you need to find a way to do so. Okay, I think that's it for bass, really. I mean, I've not really touched on the Desmos Versio, but I'm just going to do a jam now for 5 minutes or so, and I will just try to do as many variant bass lines as I can. time. Hope you enjoy. I hope that gives you a little taste of what you can do with a eurorack setup like this. Yeah, I think that covers it for this video. So I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.